Well, hello. We are back with the Hofcast for the 10th episode. I'll be honest with you, I didn't know that this thing was going to go 10 episodes. I thought I would get bored with it, or other people would get bored with me. So I'm kind of excited for our 10th episode tonight because we got a really good lineup, and we have Nick co-hosting with us, and he says that he is. I don't know. He says he's the perfect match for my personality, so we'll find out. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing well. How are we feeling today?
Man, I'm doing great. I just got done watching Shelby and Marion Harding. I'm actually broadcasting from the Baker's man cave down here. So otherwise, I wasn't going to be able to go to a game. But definitely a lot of talent on that gym. The Baker sisters, Olivia Baker, Haley Baker, Sophie Neese, the point guard for Shelby, and then Araya Douglas for Harding, who is one of the most underrated players in the state in the 21 class. That kid can go, but you know, who am I and what do I know?
What do you know?
Hey man, we got a great show today. We have three very successful coaches in Ohio. Lisa Stopp will be coming from Cornerstone. Andy Booth will be joining us first from Wadsworth, and Travis Galloway from Toledo and Notre Dame. All those programs have been a mainstay in the state Final Four.
Yeah, last time I saw Coach Booth a couple of weeks ago, and he, served me up a L. Got another win, came and visited and left with a win. So it'll be nice to see him on, safer grounds.
Is that why you dyed your hair red?
Hey man, we're into the big part of the season. I got a match with the uniforms. I'm hoping to be caught, taking some pictures, cutting down a net. I got to make sure I look good.
Yeah, you had a bet with Andy Booth for, the loser of that game had to dye their hair red, even though he ain't got much. But so, for the viewers that don't know, Nick, Coach Harris is an assistant at Bookdale. So you were actually on the first show that we ever had talking about the COVID, and you guys had a really late start. Just kind of give us a update on how the season's going for you guys and what you're kind of looking forward to here in the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Well, like you said, it was a heck of a late start. We lost out on the fall. We lost out on any ability to scrimmage, play any kind of opponents in November. Into December, all of our season was canceled. Games were postponed till the new year. We literally found out we were going to get the chance to play 2 days before our first game. So it's been a topsy-turvy, up and down year. We're tested before every game. So that's a constant, just nerve-wracking experience. Like we just got tested today because we've got, a game tomorrow, city championship on Friday. So we're out here just always, trying to be as good as possible, knock on wood, stay safe and have the ability to keep playing. We're luckily, the only team in our league who hasn't had a quarantine yet. We've been able to stay out of the way and try to be risk-free. So that's been great. Hoping to be able to keep it going for the rest of this month and, God bless into March. But the season's going good. Just, played Revere yesterday, got a win there, had some girls play well. One of our players, Leah Cheatham, who has been out for the last few weeks, just got cleared to rejoin us in practice. We're hoping she'll be able to play for the state tournament. The girls are working hard. Sanaya Manson, a senior, is really broken out. Cassidy Blackman's came back from an injury to start giving us minutes. And we feel like we might, for the first time, have our full roster going into the tournament, which excites us. We were a little disappointed in the vote, in the bracket. I told Nuge, you got to write, man. Like those people, we're writing our story in that bio. People are really explaining their record and giving you context. And so we were hoping for a little better, didn't get it, but the path that we were able to find our way into, we thought was about as good as we could have hoped. We got the winner of Copley or Buckeye the first game. That'll be a battle. Copley's someone we've been wanting to play for a couple years and haven't gotten the opportunity for, whatever reason. We love playing our local teams, but we'll maybe we'll get to play them. And if we keep going, I'll go visit Norton. And that's a team that our seniors have either beat or lost to their last 3 years. Whoever wins that game seems to win the district. So we have somebody we'd have to deal with, we'd have to go through. They're a hell of a team, hell of a challenge. But we're hoping. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. They're a heck of a.
I don't care.
But first we got City. We got the semifinals. Akron's doing all they can do to create more games for the girls who haven't played. So today there was a quarterfinal game. Firestone won. They're going to come see us in the semifinals tomorrow. If we're lucky enough to beat Firestone, we'll play the winner of Kenmore Ellet on Friday at Firestone at 5:30. Going for our, I think that put us at about 40-1 in the city in the last 4 years. So we're trying to, kind of perpetuate, keep going with what we've been doing. We haven't gotten to play Kenmore this year. I would love to see them, beat Elliott and be able to come see us. It's been something everybody's been looking forward to. And that'll be live streamed. Akron Public Schools Athletics will have that link provided for you. Please come give us a watch Friday at 5.
Hey, something that you guys are always really good at is playing a tough schedule. And as you mentioned, you played Wadsworth a couple weeks ago. That's always a challenge. And we're going to welcome in Andy Booth now, the head coach of Wadsworth. How are you, Mr. Booth?
Good, Rich. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing awesome. Besides, it's 11 degrees out down here in Shelby where I'm at tonight. So
Shelby,
it's pretty cold.
That's near God's country. That's Richland County.
Yeah, this is the area where you've done some coaching, isn't it? Somewhere around.
That's where I grew up, Route 39, pal.
Oh man,
that's God's country. That's near Lucas, Mansfield, the whole bit.
Yes, sir. I was at the Shelby Marion Harding game tonight, and if I didn't, one of our AAU players, the Bakers, Olivia and Haley, if I'm in their man cave, their dad's man cave right now. So if I didn't do that, I wouldn't. If I couldn't be here, I wouldn't be able to go to the game. But here I am. We're live again for Week 10, and we got Nick Harris with us. You can't see him because you're on the phone, but he is live with us. And
how we doing, Coach?
Andy, let's talk a little bit about. This is your team is as young as you've had in quite some time. It's as inexperienced as you had in a while. Can you just kind of talk about some of the challenges that you are facing this year that you're not necessarily used to?
Well, no question about the experience point in not the problem, but the reality is with the whole COVID summer and season, when you have a inexperienced team, the biggest thing you need to do is work with them. And you don't get that chance in the summer, the spring, the fall. And then you miss out on all those experiences. And we typically play 40 to 60 quote unquote games in the summer, not to mention, your 10 days of workouts and your open gyms and all that stuff. So when you lose that, it makes it really tough, and you're kind of having to learn that on the fly once you get into practice. So it's been tough. It's no different than anybody else. So, you can't use that as an excuse, and we certainly haven't done that, but it's just been different and difficult. And, you hope you have kids that are willing to listen and learn and smart enough to pick things up quickly, which I think that we've been able to do that, especially the second half of this year.
Mm-hmm. On the opposite side of that, obviously with the challenges, but there's probably got to be some kind of joy, of taking kids that are a little bit more inexperienced and it's because it's kind of something different that you're not necessarily used to. Talk about that end of it a little bit, like the pleasures and the joys you get out of having a younger group that you can mold and work with.
Well, and we've had, I've been around a long time, and we've had plenty of groups that, you've got second, third, fourth year kids in the program. And the challenge there is to try to do some things in practice that keeps them interested, because you've gone over most of your base stuff. And like you said, when you've got kids that really don't know anything, that's when you really get to coach them. And that's, for an old guy like me, it's kind of exciting. And, you get really, I don't know, rejuvenated is the word, but you got to teach these kids stuff that they don't know. And that's what coaching is teaching. Yeah. And, you got kids that are just eager to learn and want to get better. And, so it's exciting to come to practice every day. They don't think they know everything, and they do want to know what they don't know. And you get to work with them, and it is fun. It's exciting. It's hard work, but that's the fun of it.
Mm-hmm. You guys recently, and I want to say this was last Wednesday, maybe Saturday. You had a big win against Stowe.
That was actually Monday, a weird Monday night game.
See, I'm losing track of time. I knew it was recent.
All right. Last Monday. Yep, a week ago yesterday.
What did a win like that mean to you guys after the year, the struggle that you had this year with the inexperience and whatnot, and kind of what did that show the kids, that they are still capable of getting big wins like that?
Well, kind of to set that up, we had started out the year 4-0. Even as inexperienced as we were, and sometimes when you have inexperienced kids, when you go 4-0 to start the year, you start to think you're a little bit better than you really are. Mm-hmm. And we had a home game versus Norton, who's turned out to be a really, really good team. And I think our kids probably thought that we're gonna handle that game, and Norton taught us a lesson, and deservedly so. And we got on a little tailspin. After that, it kind of carried through the winter break, and we had a COVID delay amongst our team, and we're all of a sudden, after starting 4-0, we're 6-6, and we got our lunch handed to us at the Classic in the Country by Laurel, who's certainly one of the best teams in the state in any division. But it was really, for lack of a better word, it was embarrassing. You even as young as you are, you go out and put that kind of product on the floor. I know our kids were hurt by that. And, the great thing about our kids, and I think our program in general, is that these kids, they never give up, and they want to do well, and they keep working. And since that point, we've reeled off 6 straight. And obviously, as you mentioned, the big one was Stowe. And probably coming into this year, Stowe and Nordonia in our league, anyways, the Suburban League National, were certainly the co-favorites. Had a lot of kids back, a lot of seniors, and probably if you would have taken any kind of a straw poll of anybody in the know in our area, we would have been third for sure. And after that Laurel loss, we had a couple wins, and we went to Nordonia, and we fought them to overtime. Probably a game we probably coulda, woulda, shoulda won, but we're sitting at 1 loss in the league, and the way things have turned out this year is you only play the first time you play a team in our league is the game that counts. So it's not a double round robin. It was just a single game. So basically, with Stowe beating Nordonia once and Nordonia beating us, it was win or you're out versus Stowe. And and certainly taking nothing away from Stowe. They're a fantastic team, senior laden team. Definitely one of the top 10 to 15 teams in the state Division I think. But any given night, and the amazing thing about it, we had lost 2 kids. Reagan Simpson, who was one of our top players, was out with an illness, and then Brooke Boffman, a really good freshman for us, going to be a fantastic player, tore a knee up Saturday before. So we're down two players, 2 of our top 8, playing some JV kids off the bench, and just the perseverance and the belief, and somehow squeaked out a W at home and ended up sharing the conference title. So, you never know. It's just a, you preach it all the time with your kids of, you got to stick with the plan and keep working hard, and you never know what can come of it. And when you got kids that believe in it and do the things you ask them to do, they get rewarded. And that's kind of what happened for us. So it's a little bit of validation with, you preach a lot of those things, those cliche things, and you stick with it, and good things happen to you. And that's exactly how it shook out for us.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask, and I'm going to try to tiptoe around this question a little bit, because I don't want it to seem like, I would never count a Wadsworth team out of anything. I mean, I think you're one of the most excellent coaches in Ohio, and your kids always play hard. But you kind of said, there was nobody picking you guys to win the league this year.
Right.
And myself included. How does that, what does that mean for your kids in the long run that, they did? I mean, they shared it, but they still won the league, and not anybody expected them to do that. How does that help a group that is so young, like you guys?
Well, here's the thing, Rich, and this, it comes down to the work you put in the off season. And to be quite honest with you, for a lot of the preseason or scrimmage season and before the year started and halfway through the year, it was evident that we did not put enough time in individually, and that's just the honest truth. And so much goes into your individual work. Coaches aren't going to be there 24/7 to watch you work. Mm-hmm. And I think that, number one, our kids realize that you can't get that time back. But luckily for us, we were willing to put in the time as the season went along, and finally get it together to the point where we were able to beat a team like Stowe, and hopefully we can put a run together in the tournament. But that really doesn't mask the fact that we need to work harder. We're always looking to get better, and I think our kids realize that if you want to compete on the elite level, which that's our goal every year, is to win a league title and then regional or better. Mm-hmm. You've got to put the time in, and sometimes I you wonder if you've had such a great tradition, thankfully, of the kids that have been through this program and kind of laid the groundwork. It's not just about putting the uniform on. It's about the work that goes into maintaining that tradition. And I think that's one of the lessons that we learned, especially early in this year, is you can't just show up and put the jersey on with a name on the front and expect teams to roll over for you. Mm-hmm. You got to, the work comes before that. So that's been a big learning curve for our young kids, and sometimes young kids don't understand that, and it takes some beatings, it takes some losses to figure that out. So hopefully the best is yet to come for this group. I think that they were rewarded with the work they put in during the season with that league championship. But I think they also understand, which this is probably more importantly for me, that they got a lot of work to go and a lot of room to improve. And hopefully this off season, certainly we're not done with this season. We got some expectations still left, but those kids that we only have 2 seniors, and the kids that are coming back, I think they understand that, they got to put some more time in.
Yeah. You mentioned the tradition of the Wadsworth program, and that it was going to be my next question. For all of our viewers may not know a whole lot about Wadsworth. We have people listening from all over Ohio. So, could you just kind of talk a little bit about the foundations of the Wadsworth Grizzly program and the things that you guys hold most important for your program?
Oh, I'd love to talk about it, and mainly because it was around a long time before I got there, and mm-hmm. This is my 16th year here, and it got started way before that. Back in 1997, with a group of big sophomores and some quality seniors. They won the Division One. They, meaning us, Grizzlies, won the Division One state championship. Upset Pickerington back when it was one school. I think they were ranked in the USA Today #1 in the semifinals, and then beat Mason at the buzzer to win a Division One state title. And then they went back in '98 and '99. So 3-year stretch kind of put Wadsworth on the map. And the rest after that. My predecessor, Scott Callahan, was the girls' coach for 5 years, and all he did was go 100 wins and 15 losses in 5 years. So, you win 100 games, right? You win 100 games versus 15 losses. That's pretty good. So, when I got there in 05, 06, certainly. Wadsworth was pretty firmly established as one of the best teams, not only in Northeast Ohio, but in the state Division One. And my first year, we had a couple really nice players, Jen Ewell and Cassie Schrock, who played MAC ball at Bowling Green and Eastern Michigan, along with some other great kids. And we were fortunate enough to go to the state semifinals my first year. Keep me from getting fired for a couple of years there, buy me some time. And, but girls basketball it's very similar to Berlin Highland or some of the other great public school programs in the state, where it's kind of the big thing. The community takes an interest in it. The kids want to be like their heroes. And, so it kind of just builds on itself. And, we were fortunate in 2016 with a bunch of really good players to win a state Division One championship, and interestingly enough, beat Mason. Second time we're in the state championship, we played Mason again, great program out of Cincinnati, and win that state championship, and then go back in 2018. So, in the span of since '97, been to the state Final Four for six times. Your young kids are bound to get interested in that and carry on the tradition. So it kind of builds on itself. So, it's a special place to coach and teach, and it's been a pretty good situation for me, for sure.
One of the things that stand out to me about Wadsworth, and I'm actually going to do a show about this sometime after the season. Your assistant coaches have been there for a very long time with you. Can you kind of talk about how that is so beneficial for a program, the stability that you guys have in the coaching staff, and how important your staff is to the program? Well,
let me just kind of throw the numbers and the years out for you a little bit. Is Mark Postak, who's our assistant, our lead assistant.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in the program since 1992.
Oh wow!
And I'm not smart enough to know how many years that is, but that's a lot.
I'll tell you, it was 29 because I was 9 when that happened.
Okay, so he's been in the program since 1992. Been through, and we've been fortunate enough, I think, stability wise, to since then have 4 head coaches. A lot of schools go through 4 head coaches in the span of 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one thing. But getting back to that assistant role, Coach Postak kind of is the leader in that sense. He's I think he's well respected around the state in terms of his knowledge and his expertise. And then starting in the 96-97 season when Wadsworth won the state title, Tom Carnes, who used to be a head coach at Ravenna High School, fantastic player in his own right. He was a juvenile court judge and a probate judge in Portage County. They call him the judge, Judge Carnes. He started coaching with Wadsworth as a volunteer. And so, you have a guy that's driving from Ravenna 40 miles a day on a volunteer salary, which equals no pay.
Yeah.
And for that many years. And then our JV coach, Mike Schmelzer Sr., started in 96, 97. I know the coach then was Todd Osborne when they won that first championship talked him into coaching for 1 year just as a fill-in, and he
liked the ring.
He stayed that many years later. So, when for my 15 years, we've had the same three guys: Coach Postak, Coach Carnes, and Coach Schmelzer. And those guys had been together since 96, 97, and Coach Postak had been there since 92. So you talk about carrying on a tradition and being able to lead the way in terms of what the expectations are. And I think that's a big thing. I like to say the last couple of years, I've kind of, my thing has been the standard is the standard. And when the expectations are that high and your standards are that high, and you got guys that have been around that long, that they can talk about it, and they have the rings to back it up in that experience. Those kids are going to listen, and it's been unbelievable for me in terms of just their basketball knowledge, but more importantly, really their friendship and what the stability that they bring to the program. So I couldn't have been, talk about lucky. It's been unbelievable. So, those guys, the kids respect them when they talk, and they're not yellers and screamers, but when they say something, the kids listen to them. And sometimes when, as the head coach, you kind of at times you gotta be the bad guy. And, when you have guys that have, got that respect and have been around for that many years, when they say something, those kids are listening, and they take it at face value and respect what they're saying.
Coach, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sure.
If you've had many postseason runs, some that ended in state championships, several that have ended in Columbus. Aside for those games in Columbus, can you think of some of the big postseason games that you've had, and what would be a couple of those off the top of your head?
Well, the first one would be my first year in 2006. We opened the season with Hoover. Paul Wackerly, great friend of mine, fantastic coach now at Glen Oak, was at Hoover then, and they were one of the top couple teams in the state. And my opening game as a new coach was at Hoover, and we got beat, I think, by 3. And we ended up playing them in the regional finals at the Canton Civic Center. And if you've ever been to a game at the Canton Civic Center,
every March.
Right. So now imagine this. Back then, that place was packed. So 3,500 people, students lined around the bottom of the bowl. And I've never seen a crowd like that since. So packed house, and we are up after the first quarter, 31-12.
Wow. The
first quarter. And the ref says to me at the break, he goes, "How you doing?" I said, "Well, if we score 31 in every quarter, I think we're going to be all right." So, that certainly was a big memory. We went on to win that game and make it to state against a great Hoover team with 3 Division I kids. We just played fantastic. Obviously we went to the regional finals 4 straight years. In the 2012, 13, 14, 15, and got beat every year in the regional finals at Norwalk by Toledo Notre Dame Academy, which are all heartbreaking, all tough games, all close. So the next year in 16, winning that regional final game, and the funny thing was our kids wanted to play Notre Dame, and they got beat in the district finals by Whitmer. Toledo Whitmer. We played Whitmer in the district or the regional finals, and to win that game, just to kind of I don't know, you call it a monkey on your back, but you've been to the regional finals 4 straight years, and you lose in close games just to get that win and make it to state was incredible. So that was obviously a big one, and
I'm glad you mentioned those games because. We actually have Travis Galloway on the show, and I was not letting you get off of here without talking some regional finals with Travis Galloway. Coach Galloway, how are you?
Great. I'm good. I'm just sitting here taking notes from the legend Andy Booth.
Oh Lord, here we go. I'm just glad I listen. Not that I would have, but I'm just glad I didn't say anything bad about Travis because he'd come out and get me at some point down the road. I know that.
No, never. No,
I was kind of hoping you were gonna not mention those games, and I would have really been struggling to segue.
Oh, those. You know what though? Those games, they helped us. You lose, you learn out of everything like that, every situation.
Yeah, those games, a lot of those games were mirror images of each other, where one ball bounced one way, and that team happened to win on that day. I mean,
Yep.
Andy's teams were really, really good. We had some really good players, and everything came down to the final 45 seconds, it seemed like, in every regional final. You know, I used to have hair before I coached in those games, and then after a year.
Same here.
I was going to say, now neither of you have any hair, but we won't judge you. I was actually fortunate enough to be at least 3 of those Notre Dame Wadsworth games. I know I was at the Wadsworth Whitmer game, but Coach Galloway kind of mentioned how tight those games were. What was the? I'm sure your kids, Coach Booth, still kind of talk about that. I know you and your coaching staff probably still talk about that. But what were those games like going out there 4 straight years, and every single one of them were an absolute battle?
Well, and I would guess Travis would say the same thing because I've talked to him enough to know kind of what he's about. But we always thought the first team to 40 was probably going to win those games because both teams were very defense oriented, and points are going to be hard to come by, and you had to take care of the ball because your offensive possessions were going to be tough and they were going to be limited. And I don't think any of those games got in the 50s, if I recall. And you just knew it was going to be 2 hard-nosed defensive teams who had offensive talent, but the defense was just so good that you had to keep your mistakes to a minimum and try to get to 40 and see how it shook out.
I know one thing about those games is the internet is not very good at Norwalk, and I'm trying to update scores, and I couldn't update the Twitter until I got to like Mansfield. So it was always a struggle. But Coach Galloway and I talked before the show started about the amount of talent that you guys had on that court year in and year out, all the way going back to, for you guys, Kara Long, maybe the Taylor Woods. I'm not sure. I think maybe she was at some, in early years, Jody Johnson. Right. The talent that both of you guys had was just incredible. And obviously it showed on the floor when every game went down to the last 30 seconds.
Well, I will tell you this. A couple of those years, out of those 4, I would think it was a shame that we had to meet in the regional finals in the Northwest Regional, because I think that a couple of those years we were definitely both in the top 4 in the state, and that's just how it works out sometimes. But certainly a lot of talent. Probably both teams. Hopefully there's more to come, but some glory years for both those schools. And it's too bad we couldn't have met in the state finals, other than a regional final, for sure.
Yep. Well, Coach, I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate you and I consider you a good friend. And I just thank you for your time. I know it's on. You probably play tomorrow, so you probably had some better things to do tonight, but just thank you for your time, and I always appreciate you.
Hey, Rich, always appreciate you. We appreciate your support. Travis, good luck to you, my friend. Hopefully we'll see you maybe in the regional finals again.
Hey, that'd be awesome. I appreciate it, you guys. Best of luck to you and your squad.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Coach. Travis, this is I'll introduce you properly, since we had that unique situation that we've never had. Coach Galloway coaches at Toledo Notre Dame. as we said at the beginning of the show, a mainstay in the state Final Four, state final game. So, Coach, I want to thank you for coming on. We got Nick Harris here. We kind of talked a little bit before we started the show, so you already know Nick and his red hair. But I hate to start with this question, but it goes with what we just kind of talked about. You know, Coach Booth talked about how you guys beat them 4 straight years in the regional finals, and you guys were down in the States at least 4 years, maybe even more, and you just can't get over that hump. You know, how do you approach that as a coach? And I mean, making it the state Final Four is just a phenomenal feat in itself. But you've just never been able to get over that hump to win it. You know, tell me how you kind of approach that and just keep resilient.
Well, it's you know, we've been fortunate enough to get to the States seven times, and we got over the hump of the semifinal the 4th year that Coach Booth was talking about. Our last year against them in the regional, we were able to beat a very good Solon team in the semifinal, and then ran up against Dakota West. And we were very senior laden. That team was very close and understood roles, but from a talent standpoint, it was probably one of our least talented teams. We had good players, don't get me wrong, but just overall, it's probably a little bit one of our least limited teams offensively.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to battle Dakota West and end up losing by 6. And you know, so he talked about the monkey off your back. That's kind of how I felt, at least getting to the final. And then we were able to. That was 2015. We were able to get back to state finals again in 2017. After upsetting the number 1 team, Newark, who was, you know, undefeated at the time in the state semis, we were able to advance to the finals against a younger Mount Notre Dame team. And that's the one that haunts me probably more than anything, because I thought on paper we were probably a little better. You know, and there's things I wish I would have done different as a coach. There's things that I wish we could have adjusted to that we didn't. Because that one haunts me every day. And obviously Mount Notre Dame is very good, don't get me wrong, and they were very talented. You know, but I just thought that year could have been our year. And you know, but Coach Rogers had his kids ready to play, and they played well, and they ended up beating us that year. But it is very difficult, and every year is so different because your matchups are different. And like, you know, Rich, the game is all about matchups. If you have a good matchup in the semifinals, you feel so much better about possibly advancing, you know, and you know, if it's somebody you can defend, you think you have a better chance of advancing as well, because coaches always say, well, figure out a way to score. Can we stop them? And in the 2 times we did advance to the state championship game, we were able to find ways to stop people. It just came up short, but it's something you do have to, you think about as a coach. Well, should we change something up? Should we do something, you know, prepare differently and through the week, or, you know, do we not go down so early? I mean, all these things start entering your head, and you know, at the end of the day, every year is different, every team's different, and you just got to do what you think is best for your program and give them the best chance to be successful.
So, Coach, I was actually thinking of that. Conceptually, I mean, you've got a great team. You're always talented as heck, you know. How much do you look at the matchup and think about making changes to your, you know, system, concepts, things you've been doing throughout the year? And how much do you say, I'm going to trust what we are, who we've been, how far we've gotten, and just do what we do? If we have to in game, maybe on the fly, but we're not going to actually work it and concentrated on it in the upcoming week.
Right, and that's a good question, because I think once you get to a certain point of the season, you've got to trust what you do. And your kids are comfortable doing that. And you've been successful doing that if you're still playing that late into March. Now, I think defensively, we've done a very good job of understanding that and sticking with it, knowing that we're going to, you know, obviously game plan differently.
Right, absolutely.
But, you know, maybe on the offensive end, it's been a little bit more of an adjustment, because like Mount Notre Dame is, you know, it's like this year, they're so good with their 1-3-1 because they're so long. Well,
right.
Not with that kind of length all over the place. Well,
right.
for 4 days, but still very difficult. just to simulate it and understand that. But defensively, it's one of those things. It's kind of like we stick to, okay, this is what we're good at. We've been there. We'll have some things like in our back pocket to adjust to that we might have repped a little bit, almost with the kids not even knowing it.
Yeah.
And then just be ready to adjust to it as the game goes on. But kind of basically what go with what's got you there.
I promise I'm going to come up with better, more exciting questions here in a second. But I got to ask, you were one of the teams that were ready to play in the state Final Four last year and didn't get the opportunity to do that. What was that harder than going and not winning the state title, or how does that compare? Number one, and number two, how did you guys? How did that go for your team? Like, how did you have to break the news to them, and how did that whole process go for you guys?
It was to answer your first question. Yes, it was harder than losing in the state finals or state Final Four. It was very ironic. So obviously, when the NBA shut down the day before, in my mind, I thought there's no chance for playing. The NBA shut down. So I kind of go to school that day, and our school setup was our kids were going to get out at 11:30. We're going to practice in the gym. We're going to do a team meal, pep rally, leave. Well, I never even thought we'd even get to practice before they pulled the plug. Well, next thing you know, we get to practice. Oh, okay. We had a phenomenal week of practices. Out of all the years we've happened to had a chance to get to the final 4 days of preparation, including that day of practice. Our kids were just ready to go. They knew the task at hand was very challenging, but they were ready. We break our team huddle, and my two JV coaches come in with like our team meal. They went and picked it up. I could just see something on their face was just different. Mm-hmm. I still don't really think anything of it. Our kids go off into the locker room, and then as soon as that happens, the administration calls me into the athletic office and tells me at that point, it was postponed. Well, the very first question I asked, I go, is it on social media yet? And they said yes. So I said, well, I'm going to the locker room because I don't want our kids to see it on social media first. I want to be the one to tell them. So we walk in as a coaching staff, and it was the hardest thing I ever had to tell a team is, you don't have a chance. You're not going to have a chance to do it on the floor, win or lose. And it was very, very tough. At least with this in the states or in regionals or districts or whenever we've lost before, we've lost on the floor. And not to have a chance to even participate. And, like I said, we knew the challenge was very tough, but just not to have a chance to compete, to see what we could do was very difficult, as it was for all the teams down there.
You guys, Toledo has had a lot of great basketball through the years, and I want to kind of pick your brain on how you've taken your program. Before Toledo Notre Dame was the standard in Toledo, you start there for a while. Roger, there was other teams that had a year or two, but I don't remember too much Toledo Notre Dame before you got your team to the next level. How was that process for you? What was the focus on how to get there, and just kind of take us through that a little bit. It's kind of funny because it's an event that you promote very well and you're very familiar with. When I took over at Notre Dame as a head coach, I was very familiar with Start. Two of my better friends were coaches at Start. Mm-hmm. They would go to the Classic in the country, and I would go and watch. And I'm like, if we could just get invited to this one time, let's see what we can do, and against the best in the state, because I think we could build something off of that. And we were fortunate enough to be asked to go in 2012, and we went 1-1 that year. We actually beat Kelsey Mitchell our first game. Not a bad player. We actually held her to 9. And I was like, wow, that's
a feather in the cap.
The next day, Andy Booth just beat us up bad. The next day,
I was going to say that was one of the games I remember, and we had a Classic in the Country show before the Classic, and that game was definitely one that I remember because you guys got out to a big lead. You were playing really well, and you were probably beating Wadsworth by, I would say, 15 if I had to guess.
yeah.
And somehow they turned it all around, and they started getting hot. You guys kind of started sputtering a little bit, and somehow they won.
Yeah.
And then you go and play them in the regionals the same year, and I'm like, oh man, this is going to be excellent. And it was kind of the opposite that, you didn't get a huge lead on them. Obviously, we just talked about how close those games are, but that was one of the games that always go down for me is that Wadsworth game at the Classic.
And like Coach Booth said before he took off, that was a loss that we learned from though, and that was huge for our progression as a program. We had a lot of senior laden kids sprinkled in with some underclassmen, but they had never played in an environment like that against a team like that. So all of a sudden we had to grow up that last part of the year and through the tournament. So that loss really did help us. And stuff. But that was kind of like my goal is like, okay, let's see if we can get invited to an event like the Classic in the Country, because I just thought that'd be great for our program. And then, it did turn out very well for us. We had in 2011, our biggest win to that point was actually against probably Hathaway Brown. Hathaway Brown was loaded. They were in the midst of winning their 4 straight state titles. We played them in a Christmas tournament at Toledo Start, and we beat them. We actually got them pretty good, and that was probably like our signature win. Like, okay, who's this team? Like, we know about Start, we know about Toledo Way at that time, Toledo Central Catholic, but who's this Notre Dame team? And that kind of put us on the map. That then allowed some things to happen for us, and it's kind of we've been able to continue that since.
Another game at the Classic that I remember, and I don't remember a whole lot of details. I just know this was the moment that we knew each other just from social media, and I came out to a couple of games before this, and we might have talked a little bit, but there was a game, and I can't even remember who it was against. You probably have not forgotten, but you guys got absolutely throttled by somebody. And you came up to the media row after the game, and
that
I'm
face
like,
remembers.
I remember.
I really wanted to interview you.
All over.
I had my heart set on interviewing you because I'd never done something, any content like that with you, and then this happens, and I'm like, oh, should I just leave this guy alone? And here you are, you come up and you answered every question I had for you with absolute poise and respect. And that was the day that, my respect for you, it became personal, and it was the real thing. So again, I'm not asking any question about that game. I just want to point out that was the moment that I'm like, man, this Coach Galloway dude, he's for real. So
yeah. That was I'm not gonna lie. That was a real.
I don't remember exactly what you said in the interview, but you made some kind of comment about that was the worst halftime. That it just, you guys were already down pretty big at halftime, and we're gonna move past that now. But
I appreciate it.
Again, that was the moment that I knew that I had so much respect for you, but. Tell us how you got Grace Van Sluten on your squad. She's obviously a national type player. Probably going to be a McDonald's All-American or has a very good shot at it. Offers from all over the world. What is it about Grace that maybe me and Nick wouldn't see because we're just seeing games here and there or seeing social media. Tell us a little bit about Grace and what makes her so great.
I've been very fortunate enough to coach a lot of Division I players, and what separates Grace from any kid I've ever coached or any kid I've ever been around is her work ethic. And I'm not talking about just being in the gym. I'm talking about how hard she goes on a daily basis in practice. I mean, everything she does, it's at 100% all the time, and she's going as hard as she can in every rep. To the point that sometimes I got to walk by her and like, listen, you don't have to crash 900 miles an hour right now. Like,
Yeah.
And stuff. But then that's just to her credit, to her work ethic. I mean, I told every coach that's always mentioned Grace and said, what's different with her. It's just, I would pay, it's worth the price of admission to come watch her practice, because that's how hard she practices all the time. It doesn't matter if we're doing shooting drills, transition drills, defensive drills, our zone offense, man offense. It doesn't matter. It is 100% all the time. And she's one of those kids that obviously leads by example. When your best player does that, it's hard for your other kids not to do that. And I think the biggest compliment you can give a kid is if you're able to raise the level of not just ability, but just intensity, effort level, and all that, just because of how hard you work, you're making an impact. And that's one thing she's done from day one. And I think a lot of people, they see what she can do, but her motor in games is the same motor we see every day in the practice.
You definitely have had a long list of kids that have moved on to the next level. I mean, going back all the way to what I can remember, Jada Worthy, Michelle Holmes, Tierra Floyd, Kat Wells, Demi Whitaker, which I was a big fan of. She went and played soccer, and it's gone on and on through the years. I want to ask you about a kid that I felt has been overlooked tremendously, Alison Ray, who is a senior for you right now. I've seen that kid play a lot, and I have never left the building thinking, man, she didn't play very well today. Yeah. Every single time she comes to play, she may not be the biggest or the flashiest kid, but tell us a little bit about Alison, just mostly because I'm such a big fan of hers, and I think she generally gets overlooked.
You're 100% right. And here's the thing. After Allie's sophomore year, okay, she was about 5'5", and we were graduating a bunch of seniors, including our point guard. Well, as a coach, I'm like, can she fill those shoes? I'm not even saying to that ability, but can she handle that? And to her credit, she worked her butt off. She grew, which helped. Her confidence grew, and she worked her tail off to become a better player. And she's a kid, you're 100% right, Rich, that she's been overlooked because she's not always the flashiest. But you look at her stat line, she's 6 assists, 1 turnover, with 8 or 10 points, and defends the other team's best, guard, and all those type of intangibles that people don't always see. And she's a kid that's really, she's having a phenomenal year as a senior. She's never been a big time scorer. Right now, she's averaging about 11 points a game for us, which is huge for us. She's shooting the ball almost 50% from the arc, which was always a knock on her. She's still a great defender. She's still a great facilitator, averaging like a 4-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, and all those things. And when she went through the whole college recruiting process, every coach that I talked to, I'm like, the more you watch her, the more you'll be impressed, type thing. And she was fortunate enough to find a place, and she's excited to move on to that next level. And I couldn't be happier for Allie, because she's one of those self-made kids that's really worked her butt off to get to where she's at.
Kind of disappointing to me that and I say disappointing loosely, because I'm sure she's very happy with it, but it's kind of disappointing to me that she's got to go all the way to New Mexico to play college basketball when there's so many programs in Ohio that I see aren't exactly taken care of at the point guard position.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
So,
man, look, I'm looking out the window, like New Mexico. You know what I mean? Like, she might be onto something, you know?
Yeah, maybe she's smarter than all of us.
Yeah, right. She gonna be sending pics to coach, like, how's Toledo?
You're right.
Since this show started, it's gone down to 9 degrees here in Shelby. So you're right. You might be onto something. I cannot forget to shout out Christina Jefferson either, because that was one of my favorite kids that played for you. And she had a huge impact. Another kid that was on the smaller side, but had all kind of skill and athleticism, and played a little bit at Ursuline. I think went to Lord's later in her career.
She's actually on our staff now, so it's awesome.
Oh, she is?
Nice.
Staff, and she works here at the school with us, and I mean, you can't ask to be around a better person.
Oh, well, you make sure that she knows that I did not let this show in without mentioning her. Coach, I want to tell just how much I respect you and our relationship, and you've always been just tremendous to me. And thanks for your time. I know you guys probably aren't on the Saturday, Wednesday schedule like Northeast Ohio is, so you may not have a game to prepare for tomorrow. But again, I just appreciate your time. I look forward to having you on here again at some point. But thanks for your time tonight.
I appreciate it, guys. Nick, best of luck to you guys, and Rich, always a pleasure. Hope to see you soon. Maybe at a regional against my buddy Andy. That'd be awesome.
If it happens, anytime that happens, I'm going to be there. You can promise that.
Absolutely. So,
all right, Coach. Have a great night. Good luck the rest of the year.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Nick,
I feel like I've learned a lot. Like those two guys, it's like the freaking just like bathing in the coaching wisdom. I appreciate you bringing me on here.
I mean, how many state Final Four appearances between those two guys?
Absolutely, 2 D1 Titans. Like there's something to be said about those. Like amazing. Talking the same stuff, the same values. It's funny how consistent success really is. You just got to find out how hard it is to work towards it.
The thing is, both of those guys are so likable, and they show that you don't have to be like a jerk. You don't have to be pompous. You don't have to be full of yourself. They just show that you can be a great coach and also be a very likable person. So I think that's important to recognize as well. You and I will talk about some stuff after we're done with our guests, but we're actually going to move to another coach who has made the state Final Four a yearly occurrence. We got Coach Lisa Stopp from Cornerstone. How are you, Lisa?
Good, Rich. How are you? And hi, Nick.
Hey, Coach.
I know you don't like me talking about you, and in a good way and blowing you up and all that, but it's going to happen. So just get used to it probably for the next 10 minutes or so.
I'll take it. Yeah.
One of the first questions I always ask a coach and at least the coaches that have a very successful program, what are some of the things that our listeners or, some younger coaches could take from a Cornerstone program that kind of what it's taken for you guys to get to the level that you're at?
Yeah, well, I think I'll just start with just coaching overall. And some of my favorite quotes with that is, kids don't care what you know until they know that you care. So I think that's kind of been a staple on who I am as a coach, just even in my younger days, is just being passionate, because I think passion is infectious. Mm-hmm. And I think if you watch our kids play, at least for my good, I'd like to hear what other people think, but when coaches, after we play, say, your kids play so hard, And so I think playing with a motor, being a great teammate, majoring in minors, trying to do the little things, whether it's showing hard on a screen or having your hands up on D. We try to major in minors. And then the one given and the one big staple is we got to play hard. The loose balls have to be ours. And, I think that's been a little pattern of us. I would like to say that. I think most coaches would say that. And then this year in particular is one of our models was, we lost 3 D2 kids, good D2 kids, the Kuna twins at Ursuline make an immediate impact. Kaylee Tina at Notre Dame. But our thing was, okay, we're going to lose a lot of talent because you got to control the controllables. But you'll lose that. You don't have control over that. But what you have control over is your grit. And grit doesn't graduate.
Yeah.
And so I guess if you're really asking what is the staple of our program, I would like to say people would say we play hard.
Well, I promise you that they do.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'd say. We play hard. We play hard, and then we try to major in minors. So I'm hoping that, the execution's there. And every year it's going to be different. This year in particular, I mean, we're only about 6 deep because we graduated a lot. But yet then we get some injuries and you get some young ones. So having these young ones buy into just the culture of the program and the work ethic. And when we like to play 94 feet with 6 kids, hard to do. And we condition hard. So I would say that's another part of who we are. We condition hard. We're in shape and we lift during the season. We don't just lift in the off season. We find time to lift, and I'm grateful that we're able to do that.
Well, I can tell you right now, I've kept an eye on the Cloonans, and that hard work has carried over to college, and it's getting them on the court as freshmen, and it's making them very productive.
Yeah.
They may not be the best at any one given thing, but those values that you have put into your program have been instilled in those kids to the core, and that's why they are successful at the next level.
Yeah, and credit to them too, that because playing hard is not easy. Not every day do you want to play hard, and you can hear that with all the great players. It's a work ethic for sure.
Before you guys were kind of the D4 standard coming out of Northeast Ohio, it was Highland, and I know that you guys got through one year when Highland got beat by Lake Ridge Academy at Perry, but they've moved on to D3. Have you taken anything from them and those experiences with playing them a couple times in the regionals, and now that you guys are the top dog generally, have you taken anything from those games? Yeah,
that's a great question, and Dave, and just a great coach, and what they've done. I mean, I wasn't just familiar with them at Cornerstone. I mean, when I was at Lake Catholic, for 10 years, we went to state. 2 of those years, we would go hit Berlin scrimmages. I mean, that's always been who we are. So, I want to play them. The more you're on the court with them, the more you realize the little things that program does, from, again, majoring in minors, just doing the little things really well. And that makes the big things come easy. And, I soak up. I learn from everybody. I mean, I try not to stop learning. I was asking if Danny was on tonight, because even Danny, I was looking at a film and I saw that he was playing the zone, and I'm like, Danny, tell me about it. I think one of the things that you need to do as a coach, and and I'm not a young coach. We know that because this isn't my hour, as we talked about. This is past my bedtime. But I think the one thing that we need to do as coaches, and we need to do, I ask of my players, is don't stop growing. The minute you think you've arrived, you're done. And so, yes, I learned a lot from Dave and his program, and I still do. I miss, I dropped them this year. We played them really well last year. Yeah, I dropped them. Obviously, he didn't graduate anybody, and we lost a lot. And I'd be silly to put them on the schedule for. I don't know if it would have been helpful. I don't think it would have been helpful for him. I don't think they would have let him to play us. Yeah. But I miss that. I miss that opportunity of playing a big dog that does things so well that you can, you don't lose, you learn. And so, yeah, he does a phenomenal job. And it's going to be neat to see what happens this last year with that program, with him at the helm.
Coach, you talk about, growth, asking the players continually grow, you too. What would you say is the biggest evolution in your philosophy over, you talk about being Lake Catholic, going to state, now at Cornerstone. What do you think has been the biggest change of something you used to hold fast and true to, and now, have kind of done a 180?
That's a great question. Well, the game, everything's changed, right? From let's say that was 6-7 years ago. Scouting. So it used to be, I can remember being at Lake, driving an hour away. And I know this isn't your whole point, but this is kind of encompasses everything. But I used to drive an hour to get a film. So it was work ethic. I would. I mean, I would go and I'd sit in a parking lot. And it wasn't a film. It was a VHS. It wasn't a DVD. And you would do it. And then to study it, there wasn't huddle. There wasn't crossover. And so if you put the work in, and not everybody's willing to do that. I didn't have kids at the time, but everybody's trying to balance life. It took a lot of work. So if you did that, you got a huge advantage. Well, now, we know this at the click of a finger. Mm-hmm. You could have 10 films. So everybody's kind of doing their homework. So weaknesses, I think, are attacked. I know with me, you're looking at, okay, can we force them left? Can we force them right? I do think that weaknesses are exposed a little more by coaches, which is good. So I think that helps kids grow up quicker and recognize their weaknesses. At least I see that in our program. I tell them, listen, you need to get a left hand now because you might as well get it with me than go down the court with another coach, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a big part of it. I do think the training, this personal training with individuals, I think that could be good and I think it could be bad. There's certainly some great trainers out there, but there's so many things that are taught sometimes that really don't show up at a game. And, I think there's a percentage of 95% of the time you don't have the ball. I remember Perry had something on their shirt like that. Like, it's all these little things, but a lot of times in those sessions, they're not working on all that. And I'm generalizing because there's a lot of good trainers that do. But all that off-ball stuff could kind of go away a little bit because the kids are putting time into, quote-unquote, their game and their offensive skill set. And I'll be honest, I'm part of that. I do training. And I also AAU coach. That half the reason I wanted to be an AAU coach is to have a little of my hands on kids that I would coach in high school. And I'm so glad they allowed that. Mm-hmm. But the game's evolved in so many ways. It changes from wrong foot layups to, that used to be taboo, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You don't do a left-hand layup. And I remember seeing that for the first time about 6 years ago from one of the trainers. And I'm like, oh, gosh, what are we doing? And then you see there's a little bit of time where that could be helpful. So I've had to kind of evolve and grow. Some things I hold pretty true. I'm like, I'll dig my heels in the ground and say, okay, we're not going to be doing this right now. But it's changed so much. At least I think in the last 5 years, I think it has everything to do with videos, trainers, and everybody's trying to teach something new. But I don't think I personally, you go to Berlin's practice, I bet you there's not a whole lot of new things being taught.
Right.
They teach boxing out. They teach boxing out. They teach their hands up. They teach bumping cutters. And that's, and I'm sure you can relate to that. That I find is what's tough. Mm-hmm. They want to get in there and do a little things. I want you to bump a cutter, And so that's, I think it can help and it can hurt. Sometimes more hurt.
You mentioned, you guys did play Highland really well the year before, but then you took them off this schedule. And coming into the interview, I definitely wanted to ask about the schedule because you are traditionally a team that will play anybody, anywhere. And I know that your schedule was still very tough this year. But was there any, how did you approach the schedule this year as opposed to maybe the last 4 years where you did have a lot more talent? And how has that worked out for you guys?
Yeah, well, so the big question, and Rich, you're pretty aware of this, was one, we graduate those three kids. We're a D4 program that, okay, I've got Riley coming back. I've got Aislinn coming back. I got Smalls coming back. But the pieces around them, and then I have a Kristen who's a good role player, mm-hmm. Does it well. But outside of that, we have freshmen and sophomores and really freshmen. And so the big question was Serena Johnson going to be able to play? And so I'm AD, so as I'm going through the schedule, that was a huge unknown for us even in the summer. And obviously we don't have her right now. And we haven't had her since Perry. I think the game you came to, Maslin Perry. Yeah. So in the back of my head was the what if we don't have Serena. You need to put yourself, I am not afraid of a challenge, and you know that with me. Mm-hmm. And neither are my kids. And I didn't want to change. I wanted to have the toughest D4 schedule going into our district, and I think we do. But what we don't have, what we had last year, was one of the toughest schedules in the state.
Yeah.
We had Laurel, we had Berlin. We went down to Florida with your help, and we played the number 5, the number 2 best team in Florida, big divisions, And so, like, I think that's the difference, Rich, is I think it's a really, really good D4. I mean, a really good D4 schedule.
Oh,
And I think
definitely.
it's a good schedule, but it's not the best schedule in the state. Where last year I could tout it, and I think we played one of the strongest teams in the state. I mean, schedules. Was it the number 1? No, but we were up there when you played Berlin, Laurel, and
I'm pretty sure that you still have the best Division 4 schedule in the state. I mean, I know Minster and Fort Laramie play great schedules, but they also have a conference. Even though their conference is good, they're playing some cupcakes, which you guys definitely limit. And it's funny you mentioned the Florida trip because basketball Bob, and he tried to get me to help him get Highland down there this year, and they didn't.
Yeah, he told me he wanted to do that. Yeah,
he was mad at me for months because
you got us down there.
Bob, what do you want me to do? I can't make somebody take a week-long trip to Florida.
It's a lot of work. It was but that was such a great experience for us, and we lost 2 down there, and we took a great team, and then we won 1.
Mm-hmm.
But even down there, the guy, I didn't think he thought we were going to be anything when we stepped on the court compared to those kids, because they all look like D1 college players, and he's like, "Man, was I wrong about you guys?" And so, I mean, moral victory, I guess, but it was just a great experience. So. Back to our schedule this year, as you were saying, I wanted to make sure that there were teams that were really, really tough. That I thought Perry was really good. Maslin Perry, the guard kid that plays for you, is tough. We're going to play Lake County Perry. He's only lost 2. We played Mags. We played Beaumont's hit or miss, but they should be real strong going into it. But they play a tough schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And Avon Lake and St. Joe's Academy. And so I want to be tested, because by the time we step on the court at a district game or a regional game, and even a state game for that matter, I want our kids to know you played a team like that before.
Yep.
Where you win? Did you win it? I don't know, but did you learn something from it? Absolutely.
I can tell you what your schedule has done for you. It's gotten Dalton and Andrews Osborne to take Loudonville's undefeated side of the bracket instead of yours. And that's got to mean a lot to you guys. I mean, obviously,
it did mean a lot to us. It was respect for sure.
You're obviously feeling confident no matter what, but to see those teams avoid you guys over an undefeated team, and at the time your record I think was 9-9.
I think we may have been 10-9 going in. No, it was probably 9-9.
I mean. How does that help your confidence? How does that help? Does that validate some of the things that you guys have been through this season, or how did that shake out for you guys when they did that?
Well, it sure did validate a lot of things. So last year, Rich, if you recall, we were out at the east side of the district, and we got the 2nd seed with that team. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
With last year's team, we got. I mean, we didn't get the 1st seed, but I know we got a lot of votes for the 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
So at least with this side, I think the teams knew, you know what, Dalton gave us respect. They saw us every year at regionals, So that felt good to get the number 2 seed, knowing that we were, I think we may have been one up of 500, knowing that we were there and that we played good teams. And I think we had a couple really strong performances with St. Joe's Academy beating them. And that's a really good D1 team. And playing Mags to the wire, with 6 kids. And I do think that it's going to help us. It all remains to be seen. And let's just be honest, we got to get there first. And at this time of year, I can't help to think about last year for us. And we are just grateful. We got 20 games in. We play tomorrow. We play NDCL. And Saturday, we'll have 22 games in. I mean, who would have thought? And what really matters is the next 3 weeks after that, is those are the games we're going to get in. And that's what we're praying for. And if we get an opportunity to do that, I'm hoping our schedule prepares us well. I believe it has. We even played West Geauga the other night, and they're, just coming out of, they started late.
Mm-hmm.
I think they got 6 games, and they decided to have their breakout game against us, which which was really good for them. I mean, every other film, and I'm pretty good friends with Dutel and talking, and you know, they just, the hosts of ours we tied them at half. Okay, playing 5 kids, we were tied, or maybe even up one, and then we lost by 20. And each host of ours, one had 19, one had 14 in the second half, you know, and lit it up. And just so, I mean, but even that was a great experience when you get to play on a game where what Division 4 teams get, well, I don't know if Army does, but what Division 4 team has 2 6-1s that, you know, one's going to Youngstown, the other one's got you know, Syracuse looking at her as a sophomore. I mean, that's some length.
Yeah.
And it troubled us, and I think we learned. We'll see.
Well, here is the unfortunate question that I've had to ask a handful of coaches this year. This is our 10th episode. You know, for you, it was a little bit. I mean, every coach, you know, with the situation last year going down to state finals, but you graduated multiple kids. You know, I know the Cloonans a little bit more than I know Tina, so I'm going to talk about them. Like, those are probably the 2 best kids that's ever played in your program.
Absolutely.
And you were so close to them. You coached them all summer long, obviously all season long. And you guys have a tremendous relationship. Like, how did the whole news about the state finals go down? And, you know, how hard was that for you, knowing that, you know, you just didn't get an opportunity to finish what you started with those 2 kids?
Yeah, it was super hard. So even to back it up a little bit more, it wasn't just AU and all this. It was started in Riley. My daughter was in 3rd grade. They're in 4th. They're 3rd and 2nd. We started doing this AU thing. And so it was building. You know, I used to take them to a state game, and they're like, we want to play there someday. All 3 of them, we want to play there someday. And so, I mean, it was like this fairy tale. And then the year before, we lay this big egg with Minster, and not taken away from Minster. They were awesome. But you were there. We didn't play well. I mean, they didn't make us play. They made us play terrible. But I know we could have played them better. And so we had that fire in the belly. You have everything you need for the making of you're the team with the experience. Fort Laramie wasn't there the year before. I know they've been there forever, but they weren't there the year before. We had the fire in our belly. And to have that happen, and basically what happened was I ran out to grab some food. We had already had our shoot around. We already had our scouting report. And I come in, and it was just a really special moment. There's the twins and Riley sitting on the same side of a table, all right, in a booth, and they're watching film. I didn't ask them to, but this is just these kids. And they're watching film at a game, and their smiles were so big. And right then I got a call from John Camp. So this is probably a little over 2 hours, 3 hours before a game, 2 hours before we go. I don't know. Things are wrapping up. We're getting ready to get moving. And they're sitting there watching the game, and we just had this special moment. I get a call from John Camp. He says, can you talk for a minute? And I said, yeah. He goes, well, listen, I'm just heading down. John Camp is a writer for the News Herald. And he goes, I'm heading down to Columbus right now, but there's all sorts of rumors going on. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, yeah, there are rumors that they're going to cancel the games. I said, John, they're not going to do that. I haven't heard anything like that. And so he says, well, that's what I'm hearing. I'll hop in the car, but if you hear anything, let me know. Well, sure enough, I walk in, and now the twins and Riley must be seeing on Twitter that the rumblings are. So I have that moment with them. I said, guys, we're fine. I said, maybe they cancel tomorrow's, but we're going to be just fine. I haven't heard anything. I said, I heard the same rumors. And less than 3 minutes later, John Camp calls, and I'm looking at my phone going, oh, I don't even want to answer this. And so I take it outside, and to tell them that, and I think it's probably what every coach would tell you. It just seemed, it was awful. I mean, to have to tell your kids that, to tell your coaching staff that, for a team that everybody works hard if they get down there, right? So, but there was still the what if. I mean, I can remember Dave tweeting, from Berlin, just say, hey, we could host it at Berlin. Like, you just kept thinking, okay, well, maybe, I don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to play this game. So there was still this little bit of hope, but to be down there where they truly cancel it, and it's something that you worked for forever, and that these kids have been dreaming for forever. Not just those three that are talking about, the whole team.
Yeah.
It was awful. And it was awful for the seniors that don't get a chance to get it back. And it's awful not just as awful, but awful for these juniors, and the sophomores that this is the team, right?
Yeah.
And so, I haven't gone there too often with the feelings. And once that happened, I think I went right to Florida. When it says canceled at quarantine, I hopped in the car and I'm like, I can't deal with it. And so it's the emotions of that are really starting to come back now. When I was typing out the district or record to, kind of find out where we're going to be seated for that meeting, all those feelings kind of just flushed in, and I'm like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And so our kids, we haven't really talked about that tons. We talked about it all summer long. This group has been in the gym every day saying, it's great. But Cornerstone was really blessed us, allowing us to get in the gym the minute we could. And so I have a feeling all these kids that are back this year are feeling that we talk about pain into purpose, is trying to just make something good out of that. Let that be a fire. But the kids like twins and Kaylee, no, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's you don't get it back. But the neat thing, is just that they're at Ursuline, and I know Raleigh's going to be there next year, and they're going to try to make it happen there. They're high motor kids, and so.
I gotta ask about Riley. I cannot go through this whole interview and not mention Riley. She'll be mad at me. But this year, this is you're coaching your own child for the last year. It's inevitable that it's gonna end at some point. What are the feelings there for you guys, knowing that you're within, if you're fortunate, 7 to 8 games of being done with each other for.
Right. We're counting it. We count, and Riley and I count it personally, but we talk it as a team first. So I told the kids today that you got 3 practices left, 2 practices after today of regular season. I like to keep bringing that up, but when it comes to Riley, I'll be honest, Rich, it's been tough. I didn't just coach her in the season. I coach her. She's allowed me to coach her in AU. I've coached her since she's literally in kindergarten. Our pastor let us play in Upward. He said, as long as you coach, I'll let her play. They weren't supposed to play till she was before kindergarten.
Yeah.
So I've been coaching her, and she's been a dream to coach. She's just a great kid and works hard and made my job easy. I think those relationships can be really tough. And the motor she's had. So, it's tough. I think it's a little tough on her. We both are getting emotional about it, but we want it to last as long as we can. So, and then there's Kristen Suzik. There's quite a few kids I've had forever, because most of these kids were doing stuff in the summer, and they're all, it sounds cliche, but they all are like your daughters. You spent so many times with these kids.
Yeah.
But your real daughter, my goodness, we come home, we talk basketball, we watch film. She helps you with scouting. It's just been a blast this year, and it's been fun to watch her shine and grow into that leadership role. She was kind of a quiet leader. Cooners were obviously very vocal leaders last year, but she's kind of taken on that role of the vocal leader and keeping people accountable. It's been neat to see the growth out of her and my other seniors too, and Aislinn Hurst and Kristen Suzik. So that's been really cool.
Well, Lisa, I appreciate your time. I know, like you said, this is past your bedtime, so
it is.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to keep you up late. Hopefully you get up for school tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah, we got a game tomorrow. We got NDCL, so
okay. Well,
I'll be just fine.
I'm gonna give a shout out to Anthony DiGeronimo, one of your assistants, because he always listens and he always
wonderful.
Gives me some good feedback. So I know he's listening now, because he listens even when you're not on here. So again, thanks for your time. I really hope things end up well. With you and Riley, I would love to see it end on a high note.
So would I. Yeah. We'll see.
I'll have an eye out, and I'll be probably there at a couple of them the rest of the year. And I always appreciate you and all that you've done for me and all the support over the years. So.
Thank you, and thank you, Nick, for being on here.
Appreciate it, Coach. Absolutely.
He even dyed his hair red. You can't see it because you're on the phone, but he dyed his hair Cornerstone red just for you.
Oh yeah, right. Thanks, Nick.
All right, Coach. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Mr. Harris, it's just me and you now, buddy.
Oh, wow.
You got a bone to pick with me? Is there anything you want to get off your chest, or?
No, I appreciate being a part of the Hofcast live, episode 10. This was something else. I like it.
I know.
I'm like a fly on the wall of all the conversations we've been having over the years with these coaches.
You weren't just on any episode. You were on the 10th episode.
The 10th, big number 10. You have three great coaches, three amazing coaches doing, pretty impressive things.
Absolutely.
I wanted to steal a little bit more, nuggets of wisdom from them, honestly. I'm over here like, enough with Rich's, I know you know him and have personal history. So I'm here trying to steal practice plans, suggestions for blobs. Like, what do they got?
Well, maybe when the season's over, I meant to say before Lisa left that if I wasn't afraid to give the opponents pointers, I would call Danny right now and get him on here, and they could talk about that zone. But I don't want to give any of his future opponents any advantage here, so we won't do that. So is there anything you want to talk about? I know
I'm excited for this
is your
tournament,
moment,
man. I'm excited for the tournament. You know that. Like, our girls have been working their butt off. I can't wait to, it unfolded kind of how I thought it would. I know you were paying attention to the votes. I'm always interested to see who's voting how, and some of them surprised me. We had a couple teams vote us as like the 32nd team in the district, out of 37. Yeah. And I was surprised.
You 32nd. Come on.
I believe that was Buckeye. Who
Oh,
was playing
Buckeye.
Copley with the chance to come and play us.
I was
which
just
makes
about
sense.
to say, you got a chance to make that one right.
Yeah, we've been talking about, the general, the revenge tour. There's a lot of teams who we have to see and could see in the future this year that have beat us or said some things, or
Norton is one.
Yeah, Norton is absolutely one. That's the measure around us in Division II. They've won a lot of districts. I read the article the other day that Akron Beacon put out on Brian and the program and the history and the tradition, and it really, made me excited for the opportunity to play them.
Let's not glaze over the fact that they upset you guys last year.
Whooped us. Didn't upset us. They whooped us. We upset them the year before. You know what I mean? They came back. They had sat on that for a year. It was very evident from the tip. So, they sent us home last year. Our girls felt that. That was part of the reason we thought, we've been talking about them. We thought we'd have to go through them. Why the hell not jump up there where they're at?
So I'm definitely going to have you on the show through the summer. Once high school basketball season ends, we're going to have less coaches and more topics.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you may want topics to be discussed? Can you think of any off the top of your head?
It depends what we're going to get into. Like, I love getting into any.
I'm not afraid to talk about it.
I love X's and O's. People might not like that. Any kind of scheme, like getting into coach and hearing how he game plans, getting into the state finals, thinking about Coach Booth and seeing some of his scouts before, hearing Coach talk about diving into the tape. Like, I'm thirsty. I'm a junkie, so I'm going to drink that all up. But I don't know, how much everybody else will enjoy. And then I'm always interested in the talent out on the circuit, right? In our regional, who the players are, where they're going, who's helping them decide where they're going to go is always something that is a lot of fodder and a lot of enjoyment in my spring and summer.
Do you think we could ever get a show on here about the arms race for Akron players?
I would love that. As I get more involved in the development and the not school specific of Akron players, hopefully some people will come and, talk to us. I've been talking to a lot of coaches and trying to, there's a lot of Akron girls I'd like to help. There's a lot of Akron girls that get, I think, underserved. And then there's a lot of Akron girls that have a lot of options, a lot of people in their ear. I see a lot. I went and watched Hoban and St. B the other day, and I saw 7 of my alumni or current players out there really making some big impacts. And I couldn't have been prouder. It was nice being a fan, get to yell at the refs and not have to worry about a team.
I know ever since Pam and Willie got to Hoban, it definitely changed the landscape of Akron girls basketball.
I got to give it. I love Pam and Willie. God bless them. My phone got more popular. I started hearing from people that I hadn't heard from about 5 years. All of a sudden, we're getting invited to lunch, and lady first, and some of us got a lot more popular when Pam and Willie, stepped into the scene.
Charlie Whitney over at St. V obviously had to, step up her game too with Pam and Willie in town. So it's gotten crazy up there in Akron. There's been a lot of changing of.
There's a lot. We got girls coming from Akron, Canton. They're traveling to play. A lot of young talent on those two rosters.
Griffins need to step up their game. Don't get left behind, buddy.
I don't know what you're talking about. We're a city school. We're just here to offer opportunities to anyone within the Akron local area looking to, give back to their community. Public school funded by state, taxes. Public education. How could you be against it?
I'll tell you one thing that I want to talk about through the offseason is this ridiculous notion that you're not allowed to score 100 points on somebody.
Oh, I'm with you on that. Hey, we're getting ready to roll into tournament time. We've got a game tomorrow against Firestone, a team we have, put up considerable points. And I was talking to Coach Nuge today that I don't think we can be scoreboard watching, right? Coach Bill over there has beaten the brakes off a lot of teams. He has 300-plus wins, He understands the importance on getting better. And especially in a season like this where reps are so low and tape is who knows how I'm going to get it. It's hard to tell girls to hold the ball or to not get better when that could change their future.
Yeah. I know we have a recruiting specific episode coming up soon, with all the different things that have taken place in the last year and moving forward. So that's another one that people are going to hopefully be able to listen to and learn a lot from. But
absolutely,
you say that you were the perfect mixture of, to offset my personality. So
I think so.
We'll see.
I'm like a yin to your yang. You know what I'm saying? I'm here to balance it out. Playful, exuberant. You're brass tacks. You're straight to the point. You're getting the info out. I'm like a little sprinkle on top, a little tasty treat.
I'll have to talk to my twin brother Rich and see how he felt about this show.
I'll be looking forward to hearing from him. He's a lot better looking than you, Mitch.
Oh man. Hey Nick, man, it always a pleasure. I'll just say this very publicly. I think the thing that I like most about you is we seriously disagree on so much, and we still get along. We put our different beliefs, our different stances, and how we think and how we believe in things, and it's still all good,
Absolutely.
And I honestly think like that is one of the worst things in this world right now is people can't get along with other people who don't feel exactly the way they do. They're wanting to unfriend them, block them, never want to talk
to them.
Or
their viewpoint. Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, we agree on the most important thing, man. These kids, getting them the chance to be seen, the chance to be successful, gain opportunities from this game, and there's not many people that put the kind of time and energy you do that I can't imagine finding some middle ground and being able to enjoy their company.
You're right. And maybe one day I'll dye my hair red. Maybe.
Hey, by that time I might be green. You know what I mean?
You will probably not be red by that time that happens. All right, Nick. Thanks for everybody that listened. Again, Nick, man, I appreciate you. Thanks for being a great friend. And everybody listen, thank you. We went over an hour and 30 minutes this week, which was all great content. So that's no big deal. But just be kind to everybody. Do something nice for somebody, and don't be fake. Bye-bye.